if someone 51% had attacked the Bitcoin network, it wouldn't be the end of the world because the users would see it and would be able to dump more energy into the system to regain or to take away the attacker's 51%. So that is security. You are securing yourself against an oppressor by always preserving the ability for users to kill the top power projector if one emerges. If the top power projector achieves the 51% attack, you can countervail them. Note, you can do it two ways. It's not just digitally. And this is another reason why there is no substitute for proof of work. So, this is why I started talking about we need to start thinking about, like, legitimately thinking about US Stratcom combined hash force component command. If let's say the world is on a Bitcoin standard, or at least the United States is, China realized they burnt their ships, they screwed up, they kicked out all their miners, now they're coming back. And let's say they do a 51% attack of the network. Maybe they control whatever supply lines, or they have some advantage where they can just gain just a lot of hash really fast and kind of surprise us with 51% hash to the point where we can't respond with just better hash, at least not immediately. What's the alternative? Right? That's not, let me put it this way, that's not something that a well-placed Tomahawk cruise missile or JDAM can't solve. That's not a problem that traditional power projection can't solve. Or you just go and you cut the power to the Chinese miners, right? And suddenly the balance is restored. And so that's another important point, is in proof of work, you can literally see the people who can control the ledger, like that are, writing the ledger. They're giant warehouses of miners. They're these big companies. And so you can verify with your own eyeballs that these are separate pools of miners, that they are decentralized. You can actually see it. There's one person running this mining company. There's a different person running this mining company. There's two different mining companies on two different sides of the planet. You can confirm with your own eyeballs that that is a decentralized ledger writing system. Now let's flip to proof of stake. In proof of stake, we'll use Ethereum, for example. Ethereum began as proof of work. Ethereum had a pre-mine. Ethereum had investors that were buying Ethereum before it was released to the public. Under a proof of work system, that's not a security flaw. If there's just like one person with a massive, let's be specific, if Joe Lubin has a massive stack of Ethereum, it's okay because his big stack doesn't prevent him from being impeached if he, first of all, it doesn't buy him any ledger writing capability, because the only way to write the ledger is through mining. So not through having a fat stack, at least not on proof of work. But also, even if he did start his own mining thing, like if Mike Saylor started his own mining, his fat stack doesn't give him much of an advantage, and it certainly doesn't prevent him from being countervailed if he abuses his control and ledger writing authority. But in Ethereum, now as they pivot to proof of stake, you get into this glaringly obvious security flaw, which I don't understand how people can, I don't understand how this is even a thing that people can even debate this.
Right. Agreed.
So there's a couple of problems. The people with the fattest stack get to write the ledger now. Not only that, they get to validate. They get more say, voting power on how to validate. But ignoring that, just ledger writing, the top stakers write the ledger. Okay. How do you prove, first of all, how do you prove that all these different staking addresses don't belong to the same person? It's ostensibly decentralized because no single staking address has 51% attack or 51% stake. But how do you prove that 10 different anonymous strings of letters and numbers that represent an address don't belong to the same person? Yeah. How do you verify that? You can't.
Yeah.
In fact, Joe Lubin is on record before Ethereum is released explaining to whales, would-be whales, like if you want to disguise the amount of Ethereum that you own, they will accommodate you. They will allow you to open multiple different emails, multiple different addresses as an anonymous entity. So they don't even know who these are belonging to, so that you can buy up a bunch of different Ethereum on multiple different accounts to disguise the fact that you're one person. So they literally accommodated this. Now, again, in proof of work, it's not a big deal because being Ethereum rich doesn't get you any advantage or ledger writing capabilities. But then if you convince all the users that proof of work is bad for the environment and that proof of stake is a viable substitute, you convince them to switch to proof of stake. Now, Joe Lubin and his buddies have unimpeachable control authority over writing the ledger. And there's no way to countervail them if they decide to abuse that.
So that's a tyranny.
It's proof of stake. If you don't have the ability to countervail, you are not in a trustless, permissionless protocol. You have to trust that Joe Lubin and his friends won't start deliberately withholding valid transactions from the blockchain because they don't agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll talk to Ethereum people and they'll be like, well, the probability of that is really low. Well, probability, like what's the probability that you won't have the ability to countervail the ledger writers in Bitcoin? It's zero, right? The probability of having unimpeachable power in Bitcoin is zero. And by the way, probability is a reliability metric. It's not a security metric. And so if you're quoting a reliability metric, you're implicitly indicating you rely, which is proof that it's not a permissionless protocol, that you must trust Joe Lubin and his friends for eternity as they're passing down their fat stack from dynasty down the bloodline, that they won't choose to abuse that control authority over the ledger. And it's just so obvious. And so like,
which is in their own self-interest, by the way. This, to abuse that power would serve their individual self-interest. So you're trusting someone to act contrary to their individual self-interest.